I'm back, everyone. I got kinda lost. Now that I'm back to making videos, I want to start fresh. And while I'm not ready to go back to the monotony of Sword Art Online, a show where people just talk about playing a video game off screen, I'm gonna do another anime where nothing happens. This one is called Mono, Weekend Animation. I picked it because weekend animation sounds very low commitment, and I only save up my commitment for the cartoons that mosaic out all the genitals. And right off the bat, I have an issue with the name. The name Weekend Animation implies that animation is being done over the weekend. Spoiler alert, there's nothing of the sort. This is a show about photography and drawing manga, neither activities which contain any animation whatsoever. The show is about a high school photography club, and everybody knows that high school only happens on weekdays. And another thing, there is nobody named Mono in this show, or at least in the first episode. I wondered if Mono would be revealed at the end, like Jacob from Lost or Xenu from Star Trek The Religion, so I'm just gonna assume the real Mono was the main character Satsuki all along. Anyway, this is supposed to be what's called a slice of life anime. This means absolutely nothing happens the entire show, but a lot of cute and pretty things are shown to us while we smile wistfully and reminisce over the long lost innocence of our childhood. I think this genre was created by the Japanese tourism industry as an extended advert to come visit glorious Nippon, where the rice is the most delicious thing ever eaten and the cats have extra chonk. This was also considered a comedy, which in anime also means absolutely nothing happens, but occasionally a female character will get embarrassed and freak out, hide under a desk, or just generally eat way too much food. Japanese culture is much more sophisticated than American culture, you see. So girls being way too loud or bashful is considered comedy over there. So this cartoon opens with people applauding. I'm assuming at me for purchasing this anime. Nice try, but you're not gonna reverse guilt trip me for watching this show on illicit websites, where they hide a minefield of ad redirects. Where else can I go to discover the latest in AI lusty elf technology? I bet she has vivacious personality. Anyway, Mono is introduced with an internal monologue where she laments that she's wasted all her time in middle school.
I didn't do anything in middle school.
I guess she didn't get a lot done during snack time or whatever. I'm not really sure what you would get done in middle school, but knowing Japan, they probably expect you to have an internship under your belt by the time you're 9. Mono notices a girl at their new student welcome ceremony taking a bunch of photos rapidly, and it just looks like she's using a camera's burst mode setting. This is seen as impressive or peculiar to a disembodied female voice remarking how,
She's taking so many photos.
"Yes, lady, this is what you do when photographing most events. You take many photos and then pick the best shots later." You're telling me somebody was just looking directly at her shutter going off instead of watching their child entering their first day at high school? Mono sees her out a window later on, taking more photos.
It's her again.
You going home?
The show has her acting as if there's something really off about a high school student taking pictures at a high school ceremony and then afterwards taking pictures of other things too. Or maybe Mono really didn't do anything in middle school, including look around her. Maybe she never saw actual photography in action before and doesn't even know what a camera is yet. This is the extent of the intrigue in this story. Some generic canned anime music swells up as the wind rustles the trees and the girl takes more pictures. Mono gasps as she learns what a camera is and that there's an actual club for using cameras. The music gets increasingly loud and lame as the photographer girl photographs the wind. Again, she's complimented by another voice about how fast she is at taking photos.
Makinohara, you're so fast at taking photos.
Not how great her photos are, just how fast she is at taking them. And I'm wondering if the people writing this cartoon even know what photography is. Maybe her character traits are that she has the fastest shutter finger in the East or something. I'm just gonna assume the monkeys that write these animes meant she has an eye for good photographs and knew to film all those schoolgirl upskirt shots just as the wind started blowing up their skirts. And shout out to conveniently placing signs in each scene when you need to tell your audience what they're supposed to know at this point. This is a great storytelling method in TV. You just paste huge letters in my face when there's any relevant information that can't be ham-fisted into the already awkward dialogue. So Mono admits she doesn't have a camera, and whatever this bitch is called mansplains an iPhone to her, pointing out she can use the camera on the back of her goddamn phone. Mono goes,
On my phone.
and then narrates that since that day she's taken a ton of photos with her phone, which just sounds like that she never realized what the protruding circles on the back of her phone were for. So it turns out most of the photos Mono takes, she admits, are just of this bitch taking photos. And when it's revealed in the very next scene that one of her photos actually won an award, it conflicts with the narrative that she's an awkward, maladjusted teenager who was so clueless about what cameras are that she wasn't even aware that her phone had two of them, and that she was obsessed with another girl for an entire year instead of being creative. So which is it? Is she a fuck-up or a photography maven? Now to be fair, this anime is a comedy, remember, and a lot of comedy lies in ironic situations. And of course, what's more ironic than a girl joining a photography club to take pictures of somebody else taking pictures after all? It's so quirky. I'd also like to take this moment to thank the website I was watching this on for telling me what is and isn't a photo. This was the point where I realized there was a subtitle settings menu, and for some reason the subtitle font was set to 200%. 2 minutes and 45 seconds into the show, and a f***ing year has passed. And this bitch, who has a 5-syllable name the show barely gives us,
I will miss you, Makinohara.
well, she's graduating now. Bye, Felicia. And we're expected to understand why Mono is so sad about it. The show found it important enough to tell us that the main character was obsessed with this chick enough to photograph her almost exclusively all year, even winning an award thanks to the guidance of. But the show makes her so inconsequential that Wikipedia didn't even deem her relevant enough to list her name on the show's page, which aggravated me enough to go and try to look her name up. But she has to go now, so I hope you didn't get too attached to this character the show just spent the first few minutes introducing more than the main character. She leaves the entire photography club in Mono's hands, to which Mono goes,
I will miss you, Makinohara.
instead of acknowledging the great honor bestowed upon her. Then whatever Hogwarts spell this chick is named after tells Mono she has to find new photo subjects besides her. And then Mono makes this face. Why even point that out now that she's leaving? 1 year and 30,000 photos later.
But find other subjects, besides just me.
This line sounded like she suddenly forgot she's graduating and won't even be around anymore for Mono to photograph. So she f***s off and Mono then bends over a desk. And then another classmate enters the room. The other broad sees Mono laying under the desk, now depressed because she doesn't know what to take photos of now that her favorite subject is gone. Anything. Just photograph anything, you f***. She won an award for a photo she took in her very first year of high school, and has left the ownership of the entire club, but the graduation of her waifu is enough to make her sink into a comical depression. And yes, I said comical depression. It's comical because the music gets all goofy, and Mono's classmate is shoveling chips into her f***ing face while we're marking that Mono is dead now.
And now she's dead.
Whatever that means. Whoever this hungry bitch is, she reveals that she already misses taking pictures of Mono, taking pictures of whomever that lady was.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
The show also doesn't rush to divulge the girl's name, and instead gives us an internal monologue about how she has an unhealthy obsession with Mono. So far, it just seems like every character is the Marcy to somebody else's Peppermint Patty. And the show just blew by an entire first year in high school where we could have seen Mono develop into a good photographer, but they made sure to intricately animate some classmate whose name we don't know yet, King Konging a chip into her mouth. Mono moans this dope's name in what sounds like a Xanax-induced haze,
Kiriyama.
and I guess that was who the Kiriyama was listed on the application sheets earlier. Kiriyama gives Mono a dose of real talk.
Sachan, are you okay with this? If our club only has 2 members, it will completely dissolve. What do you suppose Makinohara would think if the club she worked so hard to build fell apart the moment she left? She'll probably think you're an indecisive, lazy, helpless, incapable, apathetic...
while Mono flails about in a bipolar episode over Senpai not being there to notice her anymore. It just feels like they wrote this one scene at a time. In this scene, Mono's handed the reins to the club. And in this next scene, it's revealed that there are basically no members left, besides the two girls who just took photos of people photographing far more interesting subjects. So basically it came down to her or the fat one. 100% of the photography club are in the scene at this point. And 100% of them realize they don't own digital cameras. So before anybody confuses them for Cope Club, they both decide to pick some new cameras out. The show either already forgot an entire year passed, or somehow expects us to believe both of these girls go through a year of photography club without real cameras, but just now finally decided to both get on that. And if Mono has been winning monetary awards for her photos, apparently she doesn't need a dedicated camera anyway. So why is this the first thing she's gonna do to revive the photography club? How about enticing other people to join? The girl goes from being so depressed that she just lays on the floor every day to announcing loudly and excitedly that she's going to buy a camera.
Alright, let's do this thing!
I guess the lesson we can learn from this is nothing cures a woman's depression and loneliness like shopping does.
Women be shopping, baby. Women be shopping.
And 2 weeks have suddenly passed. Okay then, apparently Kiriyama never visited or talked to Mono in 14 days because Mono is still laying on the floor because her camera hasn't arrived. What even is this show?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
First of all, this whole laying on the floor thing is a weird activity to do when you specifically go to a classroom for a club you voluntarily joined. Why not just go home, or take a nap somewhere more comfortable at least? It's also a weird activity to engage in right after a scene where your friend tries to motivate you into maintaining the club that your other friend just left in your hands. You said you'd start the club back up and you're still moping. Mono is now depressed because she ordered a camera on eBay, and even though the show existed in a time where the iPhone 15 existed, in this universe apparently eBay doesn't have a rating system or a department you report users to when they rip you off. eBay is notorious for siding with the buyer most of the time, so filling out a complaint seems like it would be a much more simpler process than laying on the floor and okay, never mind. I guess we're going straight to the seller's fucking house. Because Japan is maybe 5 miles large at most, and Japanese eBay, of course, lists the seller's home address on every auction. The seller just so happens to live near the high school. So our pair of action heroes take it upon themselves to go start some shit. So Kiriyama announces that
This is the base for that dirty little pig who tried to scam you.
You sure got away with words.
these two must have known each other for over a year, so I'm not sure why Mono is still making observations about Kiriyama's way with words like they just met. Also, how was that phrasing such a way with words anyway? She just said dirty pig. Maybe this was just lost in translation, or the most common Islamic insults aren't widely familiar in Japan yet. Kiriyama bursts through the front door, which Mono objects to.
Kiriyama, I think we should ring the bell for...
Only for the show to reveal that the building is a candy store. So why was Mono so concerned about breaking and entering in a public-facing storefront in broad daylight? And why does the store look like it's closed? Because in a moment they are greeted by a sickly old lady who goes,
What is this, customers?
and welcomes them as if she forgot she was running a business. This sleepy tart is known as Harambe Akiyama. Wikipedia felt she was important enough to list her name this time, so she must be integral to the story. At first I thought Akiyama was going to be revealed as a cancer patient, and I worried this might be one of those stupid stories about embracing your time on Earth with the people you meet before they're gone. But I have yet to find anything online indicating that she is sick with anything but the flu. So far this episode just paints her as a dopey bitch who gets the flu and shirks all of her adult duties for at least 2 weeks. So Akiyama gets anime embarrassed and assumes an anime groveling pose and apology. The reason she forgot was... she forgot. Turns out she had a flu for 2 goddamn weeks, and when you're laying in bed with the sniffles, looking at TikTok on your phone all day, well, sometimes you miss an important notification or two. She also mentions deadlines, because she draws the manga. On a tablet that I feel I should remind everyone presumably has email and a current version of the eBay app that she could have easily used to correspond with the buyer of her camera. Then the old lady's grandma, who also forgot to open the shop, enters the room, and you can tell she must really be old because her eyes are permanently closed, which happens to all Japanese people when they turn about 50 or so. She makes the girls an open-faced Charlie's cheesesteak while her waste-of-space granddaughter continues to remain frozen on her hands and knees in the doorway. Kiriyama tells Mono to use her new camera to take an Instagram photo of her food. As I realized in that very moment that I got tricked into watching an anime about high school girls taking pictures of their goddamn food. We are then treated to a commercial about the wonderful features found in a remote action cam, and Akiyama nervously offers to let them use her tablet that she should have been using to check her eBay notifications. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mrs. Doubtfire. You made these two girls come out after you for their camera, getting her geriatric grandmother to cook mall food for them, and then offer to let them sync the camera to your tablet, take a single photo with it, and then unsync the camera from the tablet and transfer the photo over to their phone, which helps nobody at all. And to top things off, you forgot to open the store, making her grandmother check in on why the place was so dark. Just go back to bed, you old bitch. You've screwed up this entire operation. Then the most interesting character of the show enters the room. A stray cat that somehow looks way overfed, voiced by a human just saying the word meow. And then, like clockwork, a bunch of irritating, precocious kids, voiced by 37-year-olds, enter the store. They fawn over the cat and introduce him by name, even going so far as explaining the historical significance of his name, which will probably be lost on anybody who didn't grow up in Japan.
Yep, he's the boss, so we call him Taisho. That's not true. It's because he was born 100 years ago during the Taisho era.
That's one magical cat.
They completely glossed over the name of the chick who inspired Mono to become a photographer, though. But at least we know the cat is called Taisho, and he sometimes gets on the train. Then for some reason that's completely lost on me, this girl in the middle channels the Dark Lord for some reason, while everybody else around her talks about the cat's name. As if this is just something that happens every day at 11:30 or so. This is all important to the plot, I assume, and is why they needed to skip through Mono's entire first year of high school. They proceed to brainstorm on ways to attach the camera to the cat to take some awesome first-person Cat of Duty footage. The girls wish they could put the camera on the cat's head, but to reveal that sadly they cannot in fact use a normal-sized head mount on a cat. I'm glad they cleared this up, because I just happen to wonder why they didn't just strap a human-sized helmet to the goddamn cat. Seriously, just put it on the collar. Strap the fucking camera to the fucking collar. This doesn't have to be an all-day thing. Finally, Akiyama proves helpful in the most specific way possible. She reveals that she just so happens to be in possession of a cat-sized helmet that the camera can be strapped to. That's it. No further explanation on why she even has that. The scene just cuts away as if this interview is over or something. It would have been easy to explain it in a way like,
when I used to own that camera, I got it so I could film some cat footage like you guys are.
but remember, this is a comedy, so zany things have to be around every corner. Akiyama then sits there as she lets the 4 edibles she just took kick in. She stares at the girls and muses,
So, ready? High school girls with an action camera.
as if high schoolers wanting to film everything was the most peculiar thing she saw all year. Kiriyama goes,
Wasn't there a mascot like this?
which I'm guessing I will have that reference explained to me after I audit into the more expensive courses at the Church of Otaku. So as soon as the cat leaves with the camera on his fucking head, Magic Carpet Ride by Steppenwolf suddenly stops playing in Akiyama's head.
We just can't wait to head out. Go get some good shots for us.
I forgot to tell you, but
And she remembers the highly arbitrary rule that the cat only comes back to visit that particular store exactly once a week. Look, he's a busy kitty, and he has a lot of prior engagements, so you can't expect him to be there all the time. It just amuses me that neither this old hag nor her grandmother thought to explain to all the kids that if you attach a camera to a stray cat, there's a chance you might not ever see that camera again. Suck it, kids. Akiyama even offered to get the cat fit with the helmet, so the girls could immediately lose the camera they just bought from her, and had to manually walk to her house to pick up. But don't worry, girls, Akiyama will let you know when the cat comes back someday. Thanks a lot, Satan. I guess you've won this round. She forgets to send you the camera, makes you come out to find her to get the camera, and then encourages you to put the camera on the stray cat's head and lose it on the first day. But she's totally going to remember this time. I hope you two at least shoplifted some snacks before you left. As the two girls walk home, Mono talks about how Akiyama looks just like whoever the hell the chick from the beginning was. Macarena or whatever.
Mostly, Maki Nohara taking her own photos.
And I just take her word for it. Every girl in anime looks exactly the same, so I'll just assume the one with glasses looks like the one with the glasses because the show animates a PowerPoint to illustrate. Mono announces she may return to Akiyama tomorrow.
I might go back there tomorrow.
And I'm not really sure why she said this. It's not like the camera is going to be waiting for her tomorrow, since the cat apparently only makes his rounds once a week. Maybe she just loved the grandmother's cheesesteak so much and thought there'd be more free food if she hung out more with the lady's handicapped granddaughter. Mono narrates that the cat came back a full 10 days later. Because these broads have nothing better going on in their lives, we just fast forward almost another 2 weeks. And this poor animal is still wearing that helmet, meaning they tortured it for almost 2 weeks and nobody was even around to remove the stupid helmet, let alone feed him. Kiriyama starts crying because her new camera is all scratched and dented. But really, she should just be thankful she even got it back in working condition. Hang on, Kiriyama's camera? I thought this was Mono's new camera.
I know! I bet we could get some great shots if we followed him around with my camera.
Oh. So they made the scene all about Mono getting her new camera, and then sneak in a quick line about how it's suddenly about Kiriyama playing with her new camera. That's not confusing at all. The camera footage briefly shows that the cat got into fights with other cats, while the camera's battery miraculously lasted almost 2 weeks. And Mono narrates how harrowing the cat fight footage is.
Who would believe he was capable of that?
He's a brutal savage.
But the cartoon doesn't show us any of it, instead showing the girls with shocked expressions watching the harrowing footage that we didn't get to see. Thanks, cartoon. Guess animating a cat fight was just gonna be too much work. Then Kiriyama starts screeching like a tea kettle about some Japanese snack that I'm sure Redditors buy at a premium at specialty candy stores in the US, and insists it's the most delicious cardboard you'll ever eat, and Kiriyama wants to eat all of it. Because she loves food, remember? And the random local children, who somehow know her now, are accusing her of hogging all the whatever the shit is. And Mono thinks she sounds like a villain.
Whoa, you sound like a villain.
Isn't that funny? And what did they just call her?
It's her. It's a Hinariage ghost.
Hinariage.
See, this is probably why people insist on watching anime with subtitles. Not that it helped this time. I don't know why they're calling her a ghost. Then after that random-ass interaction abruptly ends, Akiyama sheepishly mumbles that she's glad Mono and her corpulent friend have returned.
Glad you came back.
Even though we just saw a scene where it was established that the store started stocking Kiriyama's favorite snack in bulk because she buys it so much. And over a week ago, Mono remarked that she might go back the next day. This show really doesn't give a f, does it? We're then suddenly treated to a close-up shot of Akiyama's head as she does that thing anime characters do when they're forcing themselves to ask a question that they've been playing out in their head for too long, and loudly blurts out a request for the two girls to be models for her next project.
Amamiya, Kiriyama, I need to ask, will you please be the models for my next project?
Look out, girls. This sounds like a highly suspicious request for two high school girls that you barely even know. But thankfully, she explains after the fact that she's a manga artist. Except they do it in the most ass-backwards way possible.
I'm actually still kinda... Of course. I'll start kicking around ideas for the next series right away.
They cut her off mid-sentence to give us a flashback of her being a manga artist first. Except it's not of her actually doing any drawing or anything, because anime loves to cut corners. She's just sitting in her office and talking on the phone while treating the stray cat that supposedly only visits once a week like it's her cat now. After turning into a Matryoshka doll and having a conversation with the cat in an otherwise empty room, the show finally lets her reveal that she draws 4-panel mangas for a living. Like, why even beat around the bush about that?
You're a manga artist?
Yes, I am.
See? Was that so hard? So the anime that wouldn't let us see the cat video footage it built up for several minutes graces us with a very detailed text message conversation happening between Akiyama and a client of hers, who gives a very specific suggestion to Akiyama that just happens to be serendipitous enough to perfectly describe Mono and Kiriyama. There's no way they just made this all up as they went along. And what's with this interaction?
I just finished a series, so basically I am a shut-in.
Yeah!
Am I supposed to assume Kiriyama is also a shut-in? The girl who wanted to march straight to this bitch's house to get Mono her camera, and later goes on a little outing with both of them? That Kiriyama? And the two girls are bonding over that? I guess the other character in the room asking,
What's happening here?
is supposed to indicate to us how silly this behavior is. This comedy anime is so zany and quirky. Mono is somehow surprised that Akiyama just sits and draws on a tablet to create manga, imagining the Korean animation sweatshops the Emperor of Japan used to produce anime back in the day, which, to be fair, is more accurate than Kiriyama's daydream, where she imagines manga is produced by beatniks from Seattle. The girls ask Akiyama what she's working on next, and she awkwardly explains that she's doing a manga on 2 high school girls who just so happen to be doing the very thing Mono and Kiriyama were just doing. Imagine that. Only she's making them black so the police don't suspect nothing. She then gives a very suspicious and nervous laugh, and I start to wonder if she just wants to sell these poor girls into human trafficking. Mono rightfully asks what she needs them to do, and Akiyama gives a very vague explanation.
I want to reference the two of you while you're taking your photos.
Then for some reason the two girls both simultaneously imagine themselves in the midst of ground battle in World War II, in a scene that looks like they're just trying to flee from an atomic bomb or whatever. I just don't understand anime. I figured the anime would blow by another few weeks before we got into the girls going on their little outing, but surprisingly it happens immediately. So the two girls get in the car with an old lady who apparently hasn't been allowed to leave the house for ages, because she immediately forgets which pedal is the accelerator. The random ass kids who always just seem to be around every corner go, and at this point, I'm wondering if the children aren't really there and are just Akiyama outrunning the schizophrenic visions of her past victims. So Akiyama ignores the phantom children and slams her foot on the gas to get away from her memories, as the two girls scream in terror. And no, to any of you racists watching, it's not because she's Asian either. It's because she's a woman.
Oh, I think that was supposed to be left turn.
Akiyama acts increasingly weird and nervous as they get closer to what I'm assuming is the 2 6-feet rectangular holes that she dug in the woods beforehand. They finally get to the science center they're going to, and thankfully it's still daytime, so plenty of witnesses are no doubt around to spot the last whereabouts of these two poor girls. Akiyama disappears to a nearby cafe and enjoys herself a donut. And I know what you're thinking, and it was actually a donut this time.
These donuts are great. Jelly-filled are my favorite. Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
She has her prey where she wants them, so she wants to enjoy the ritual of her next kill. I'm just so bored of this cartoon that I have to fantasize that this was listed as a slice of life anime for the same reason Dexter called his boat that. Anime loves to show how much the Japanese love rice and curry. It's like the 3 staple food groups in Japan are rice, Indian food, and wasabi flavored snacks. Next, Akiyama suspiciously asks ask Mono to stand in front of the sunset to take a lengthy time-lapse photo and not look behind her at all while she does it. Mono, who spent the past year taking creepy photos of just one person and then spending all of her free time laying under a table, of course has never heard of what a time-lapse photo is, in spite of having one of her photos featured in a magazine, which even paid her. The anime then gives us a montage of the girls taking a time-lapse photo over the next 2 hours. More time is spent in this montage than the entirety of screen time of Mono's freshman year. Akiyama and Kiriyama both wake up from a nap, and because the artists wanted to just hurry this episode along, they were inexplicably drawn in chibi mode, which just happens to make them look like two ghouls on a bunch of Ambien, haunting Mono while she assembles a time-lapse photo on her iPhone. Then this fucking cartoon, which skipped so much time just to get to this moment, actually takes its time to animate her time-lapse photo perfectly for us at full length. It's insane. And then Akiyama decides to try and get the two girls good and liquored up.
It's kinda rough, but we got the shots.
Akiyama then rattles off a bunch of photographer jargon fast enough for the normies to stop paying attention.
Now you've got the spirit. So when you take a night shot, be sure to raise the ISO sensitivity, slow down the shutter speed, and take in the light nice and slow, longer than usual.
And then expects the bitch who didn't even know what time-lapse photos were until about 2 hours ago to remember all of it and not have any follow-up questions. Thankfully, before Akiyama could go in for the kill, Taisho the cat just happens to show up out of nowhere, like this is the goddamn Matrix, and distract her by knocking the camera over. Since this is a slice of life anime, this is the extent of the conflict in this episode. And then because this is a comedy, of course, this episode has to wrap up with a little joke at the end. So get this, there's an innocent, heartfelt moment between the two friends as Mono realizes she actually likes taking photos and not just creeping on her lesbian crush, but then Akiyama thinks out loud about how she wants an Egg McMuffin.
I'm gonna get an egg muffin to go.
Ha! Because she also likes to eat the food, right guys? So the episode closes with the credits playing over everything and the dialogue mixing over some very loud and irritating Japanese pop singer music. Akiyama finishes her comic, which somehow happens to be a storyboard for this episode. This is eerie. There are no less than 3 panels of Mono laying on the floor under the table, a picture of her award-winning magazine photo, and the chick Mono used to take pictures of, even though Akiyama never met her. She didn't need either of these girls to drive out with her to a second location. She didn't draw them taking photos in a single frame. And to top things off, she somehow had access to knowledge of Mono's past acquaintances in high school. This chick is either a sleepy undercover cop, or the other thing. This show sucked. I get that there are some animes that are just written from the ground up to be cute and heartwarming. I actually smiled at 1 or 2 of them as I basically did this the entire time I watched them. So I guess I can understand the allure of tuning out the rest of this noisy world and just watching a pleasant cartoon about day-to-day life, but this one was just lame. It felt forced, all over the place, covered way too much time in one 20-minute episode, and nothing really made any sense. The summary I read about this anime before I started watching it makes it sound like Mono was going to merge her photography club with the video club to make a cool hybrid club where everybody films and photographs stuff. That's why I tuned in, not to find out 1 out of the 7 or 8 current episodes is just the main character finding out photography is cool after a year of doing photography. Why wasn't any of that in the first episode? I'm not really sure I want to watch more of this. I'd rather watch the one where they just talk about playing a video game off screen the whole time. Anyway, I went way too long on this one. Thank you for watching this video and be sure to like and subscribe. I'm gonna go take a nap now.
We thought Taisho was just a cute, fluffy kitty, but we watched him start some pretty gruesome territorial fights.